Have you ever given the exact same consequence to the exact same students more times than you can count? It's the same warning, same lost recess, maybe the same call home, and somehow in April you're having the exact same conversation that you had with this kid in September or October. If your classroom management plan feels like you are on repeat constantly, it's not that you're doing something wrong. You're just missing something that maybe you never really stopped to really think about. So today we're going to take that pause. We're going to take that pause and talk about why consequences aren't changing the student behaviors that you see in your classroom so that you can stop just going through over and over again the same 5 minutes of your day every single day. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. Okay, let's make this so simple. You do not need another 400-page teacher manual. You don't need another random PD session. You don't need a full classroom makeover. And for heaven's sakes, you do not need a new initiative. What you need is a reset. You need a clear plan. And that's exactly what the Classroom Reset gives you. It is a step-by-step framework that you can move through at your own pace. It's short trainings, practical strategies, and immediate implementation. I mean, you can learn something one day and put it into practice the very next day. No fluff, no overwhelm, no stress. We're all about no stress here at the Inspired Classroom. And no adding 17 new things to your plate or having to carve out time in your day to implement these things. This is going to dramatically change your teaching and your classroom in some of the smallest and most powerful ways possible. You're going to take what fits your style, your grade, your content, your students, and you implement it right away. In just the first week, I promise you, you're going to start noticing a difference. So if you're done spinning your wheels and you want a clear path forward, this is it. Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset and let's make this so easy. Okay, so let's talk about consequences, okay? I want you to picture yourself in front of a vending machine, okay? Yeah, I took you out of the classroom. We're in front of a vending machine. And you're standing there and looking at the snack that you want. It's sitting right there at B5. You know the snack I'm talking about, right? Yep, that's the one. Okay, so you put your dollar in and press B5, but for some reason, B6 comes out. That's odd, right? No, you didn't want B6. You actually don't even like that snack, but whatever. You can always stick it by the copier and someone will eat it eventually, right? So, okay, let's try again. B5. You're going to be really careful to press the correct buttons, but there it is again. B6 came out. This is super annoying, isn't it? Okay, but one more time. This time, you really take the time to press into those buttons. You press the B, you press the 5, and what the heck, the darn thing happens again. B6 comes out, and you're wondering, why is this not working? Well, that's kind of the same thing that happens when we just dish out consequences, especially to the kids who we think really, really need them. No matter what our intent is, they're just not working. And they may be with some kids, but with this vending machine, the dollar just isn't working. And in order to make B5 come out the way you want, you're going to need to figure out what is going on inside that machine. You see, behaviors can be similar. They are the symptom that something is just not working. And consequences are not always the answer. Instead, you have to look a little bit deeper to see what's underneath the behavior. And by the end of this episode, I want to give you a simple way to look at what's actually happening underneath the behavior that you're seeing and a 3-step plan that you can actually start using tomorrow. So reason number 1 that consequences are not changing anything is because they are a reactive strategy. They only show up after the behavior has already happened. I want you to think about it this way. A consequence is a response, right? A response to a fire that's already burning. And it might put out the fire for a moment, but it doesn't stop the next one from starting. And yes, I have absolutely stood there giving a consequence and thought, we are going to be right back here tomorrow, aren't we? Right? Now, that doesn't mean that I'm anti-consequence. I really am not anti-consequence. We need consequences in our classrooms and in our schools. The difference is that we can't just rely on consequences every time a student speaks out or drops their head on the desk for the 50th time to avoid the work. For these types of constant, consistent behaviors, you have to ask, has a consequence ever actually changed a behavior for good? Not just quieted it for the afternoon, or maybe even scared the kids straight for a little while, but actually changed it permanently for every student every time. Because if consequences really worked the way that we've hoped and been told that they will, none of us would still be giving them, right? The same one in April that we were giving in September. I mean, clearly something else is going on with some of these kids. Instead of being reactive with consequences, I want you to think a little bit more proactively, okay? How can you get in there and fix the behavior or the environment that the behavior is happening in before the behavior even starts, right? So for a vending machine, it would be opening up the machine and checking the circuit paths. You know, where are the B5 buttons even leading to, and why is this not working? So for a student, of course, it's a little different, and that's why I created the reset framework. This framework walks you through the whole proactive structure that gets underneath behavior instead of just reacting to it. You reset all the most important parts of your classroom that naturally lead to better student behaviors. And I've laid the entire reset framework out for you inside my free resource. It's called the Reset Roadmap, because you don't need someone showing you how to teach. You know how to teach, and you don't need a whole new program to implement, right? No one has time for that. You need a reset. So I want you to go to theinspiredclassroom.com/roadmap and go get that PDF, okay? Now, reason number 2 that consequences are not working is that they can actually create damage in your classroom. We've got to be careful of this, okay? I want you to think about this. Constant consequences. And again, I'm not talking about deleting consequences entirely. There's a place for well-deserved consequences, but the constant consequences that you find yourself annoyingly giving, like every 5 to 10 minutes to the same 3 to 5 kids, those can actually do damage, especially when the consequences are given publicly, right? They become embarrassing and can actually chip away at the connection that you may be trying or you should be trying to make with the student. Because connection is the most important thing that can actually regulate behavior in the long term. So does that sound familiar? You know, a student pushes a limit. We respond with something that makes them feel small or singled out or unsafe. And I know that hurts. I know that hurts. And that's part of why I do these podcasts with, us giving ourselves a chance to just reflect. Because sometimes when we step back and think about this, right? Because when we do these things reactively as part of human nature, instead of a student trusting us more, they actually start to trust us less, which can make the next hard moment even harder for both of us, right? Now, I used to do this all the time, right? Just a barrage of redirects and warnings. Dylan, sit down. Dylan, why don't you have a pencil? Dylan, can you just sit down? Dylan, stop talking. And then it was the write-up, and then, maybe sending to the office or calling home. But once I started to really understand how to work proactively with kids like Dylan, so much of the behaviors changed. But the change actually had to happen with me first, right? I had to reset things for myself and my classroom. I had to put my big girl pants on and step back for a time and really look at what was going on so that I could take that step forward to reset things. Sometimes, actually maybe oftentimes, a dysregulated student really isn't defying you. They're communicating something that they don't have the words for. And the more connected that they feel to you, the more capable they become of hearing what you're actually asking of them. Okay, so reason number 3, these constant consequences don't work is because they teach avoidance and not skills. So let me explain this one. Consequences tell a student what not to do, right? It almost never teaches them what to do instead. Now, if a student is calling out because they don't know how to wait, or shutting down because they don't know how to ask for help, a lost recess, it doesn't teach waiting. It doesn't teach asking for help, right? It just teaches them to hide the behavior better, or to feel worse about themselves for having this feeling in the first place. I mean, think about it. Have you actually witnessed that before? The moment where you've given a consequence and the student's face told you that it landed just in the exact wrong way. There's like a gap there where the student takes the consequence. Maybe it's a lost recess, a call home, but they are rolling their eyes or they're thinking, I'll just get through these 5 minutes, or I'll just let the teacher talk and nod my head and just get this over with. That's teaching or reinforcing avoidance. You aren't teaching the kid any skills. And this may sting a little for a minute when I say this, but just taking the kid aside to discuss better behavior isn't always the answer either. Certainly not for the kids who keep showing behaviors over and over and over again. Skill building is different. Skill building, like self-regulation, is something that you can teach, but it needs to be taught through intentional moments that are embedded into your day. It needs to become part of what you do as a teacher so that it's proactive. When I taught middle school music, I used to love taking kids with behavior issues aside to discuss things. It made me feel like I was really making a difference by having a heart-to-heart with someone like, this kid, Jeremy, comes to mind, who was always getting in trouble. And we'd talk about his behaviors and what they are doing and what they are not doing for him, and how I want to help him. And he would sit and listen and nod and agree, but then go off and do the same thing. I mean, honestly, he probably thought that our conversations were just a great excuse for him to get out of his next class, right? I wasn't teaching him skills. I was just taking up his time. Oh gosh, how I wish I could go back and help Jeremy better when he was in that 6th grade class. Oh my gosh, now he's probably in his 30s. Anyway, the point is, I now understand a little bit better, and I'm still learning and growing with this too, right? How to embed the learning of those regulation skills into what I'm teaching every day. And that's what makes a big difference. Now, here's what I'd love for you to sit with this week. I want you to think of one behavior in your classroom management routine that you find yourself responding to over and over again. What do you think that student is missing? Is it connection? Is it regulation? Is it engagement? Hold on to that. We're about to come back to that, okay? So if consequences are not the answer, then what is? Well, you probably picked up on the idea that you need to be more proactive with helping your kids before they need it. But how? So this is where the classroom tripod comes in. I want you to picture a tripod like one that holds up a camera. It's got 3 legs, right? Connection, regulation, and engagement. Those are the 3 legs that holds up this classroom tripod. And when all 3 legs are steady, the classroom holds. But when one leg is wobbly, the whole thing starts to tip. And what we see when it tips is almost always what we label as a behavior. A student who's constantly seeking attention, testing limits, shutting down the second something feels hard. 9 times out of 10, one of those 3 legs is the real story. Not that this kid is super difficult, even though that's what it looks like, that's what it feels like. Not that this class is bad this year, but it's one leg, connection, regulation, or engagement that just needs to be shored up, steadied, right? And that single shift from what's wrong with this student to which leg is wobbly here can change everything about how you actually respond. You stop managing the behaviors as symptoms and you start addressing the actual cause. Does that make sense? Because once I started looking for the wobbly leg instead of looking at the behavior itself, I stopped feeling like I was constantly putting out fires, and I started feeling like I actually had a plan. And that proactive structure, the thing that actually shores up all 3 legs of the tripod, is exactly what the reset framework is built to do. It's not a behavior chart. It's not one more strategy to add to the pile in a random way. It is looking at the foundation of everything else inside of your classroom, which really comes down to connection, regulation, and engagement. So here's the 3-step plan that I promised you at the beginning of this episode. And I'm calling it a tripod check, okay? So step 1 is to name it. Pick a student or pick the one behavior that's been seemingly on repeat and write that down, okay? Is it transitioning into the classroom? Is it getting started on work? Is it focusing on things once kids are there? Is it blurting out? What is it? Step 2 is see if you can diagnose the leg. I want you to ask yourself, is this a connection thing? Is this a regulation thing? Or is this engagement? Don't overthink it. Go with your gut, right? You know this student better than any chart does. And if you can't figure out if it's connection, regulation, or engagement, always defer to connection first. That is like the foundation of absolutely everything else. And then step 3, try one thing. Not everything, just try one thing. So once you know the leg, try one small, proactive move that targets that. And try to stay away from a consequence and instead do something proactively before the behavior even starts. So if it's connection, maybe you go to a morning check-in for your student. If it's regulation, maybe you try and introduce a movement break or some kind of break that the student can do. If it's engagement, see if you can incorporate some kind of hands-on task for that student. And if you falter and find yourself giving out consequences, don't worry. You're human, right? We're all human. That will probably happen. But the difference is that now you're realizing it and understanding that you can make a small tweak next time. It's all about the process, the resetting of what you're doing. And believe it or not, it's something that you can enjoy doing. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.